Welcome to Quit to Win, the show where we explore the moment people had to let go of our destructive pattern, limiting identity, and the internal battle in order to rebuild their life with purpose and clarity. Today's guest is Chris Nat, 8th degree black belt, 1999 US national taekwondo champion, life leadership coach, keynote speaker, and Amazon #1 best-selling author known as American Breakthrough Sensei. Chris helped leaders, entrepreneurs, and team shatter the ceiling they cannot seem to break through, using the same black belt principle that transformed a short, overweight, 10 years old into a national champion. But before the black belt, before Procter before the stage and the book, Chris faced a moment that most high achievers know intimately. He was staying in something, not because it was right, but because living would upset someone else. And the day he recognized that, the day he chose his heart over someone else's comfort, everything changed. Today, we'll explore what it truly costs to live for other people's approval and what becomes possible when you finally commit to your own path. Chris, it's a pleasure and honor to have you on the show.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Benaiah. It's
thank you
great to
so
be
much,
here.
Chris. So, Chris, you were 10-year-old, short, overweight, searching for something, and then martial art find you. What did that 10 years old boy actually find in that judo dojo that he was not finding anyways?
Yeah, so I was, as my intro said, I was 10 years old back when I found martial arts. And interestingly enough, at that time, yeah, particularly in the United States, martial arts was not very much a kid's activity. It very much is today, but when I was introduced to it, it wasn't at all. And I was introduced to a television show on television here in the United States called Kung Fu, and so I was enamored by
Yeah.
these, what he could do. And I went to my first class, which interestingly enough was me and a whole bunch of 20-something men. But when I saw them move and I saw what they could do, I literally felt like I came home. And so what martial arts became for me is this beautiful way of expressing physically and learning to have greater amounts of confidence and focus and concentration. But eventually I realized that it was much more than just the physical outlet. It could help frame who I became as a human being.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. So you played collegiate football for 4 years and then spent a
I did.
decade racing through corporate sales at Procter and Gamble. That is not a short date or that is a significant chapter. What were you learning about yourself in those years and what was quietly building underneath the surface?
Yeah. Well, both of those experiences were quite different. So I was playing American football, just to be clear. So it wasn't soccer, as we call it here, but it was American football. And I had had a very illustrious high school football career, but then was recruited and went on a scholarship to Northwestern University. Now, I was extremely excited and honored for that opportunity. I went as a scholarship athlete, which meant that my education was afforded to me for playing football. But it was also a program at the time that was the losingest football program in major college football history. So, in fact, up until we broke the losing streak, we had lost over 38 games in a row. And so now I was on the team that then broke that streak and began to turn the program around. But it was really, particularly my freshman year of college, it was incredibly challenging because I was used to winning. And now I was in an atmosphere that I was not only experiencing losing in the present moment, but had been part of a tradition of losing, particularly for the last 3 to 4 years. So being able to stay true to a vision, our vision, be able to not lose faith in myself, be able to continue to come each and every week to work hard, to work toward our goals. It was an amazing character builder for me because I learned how to continue to stay true to something, even when I wasn't receiving the results that I wanted. Right. So that was my first experience in playing football. And then when I moved into the corporate world, that was another wonderful experience as well, because it was a whole new experience for me. Now I was working in an organization and I was, when you are a student, whether it's high school, collegiate, et cetera, I think we have a vision of what it will be to actually work, but it's very different when you get into it. Right. And I happened to have gotten married between my junior and senior year. And then our first son was born. And then I graduated college. And then I started work all within a 2.5 week period of time. So I had to grow up fast. I had to grow up fast. But the lessons that I learned in the corporate environment clearly helped me when I went on to own my own business.
Amazing, amazing. So you said you were staying to avoid upsetting someone else rather than following your heart. How long had that been through before you finally learned it? And what did living in the gap between what you felt and what you were doing actually cost you?
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. I tell this to a lot of people that I share this experience with, as well as people that I coach. My experience in the corporate world was not bad at all. I actually had a very good experience in that environment. And I think that when our heart is not in something
Yeah,
100% and we're having an experience with what we're doing that is really distasteful to us, it's easy to leave. But when you're in an experience where your heart's not there 100%, but it's actually a good environment, I believe
yeah,
it makes it even harder to leave, right? Because now the fear is
yeah,
there. What if I leave? What if I give this all away? I'm doing well. I'm being provided for well. I'm respected in my work and I'm working with a great group of people. But the turning point for me was doing a corporate business review. At the time, I was one of a member of a team that we were calling on the third largest grocery company in the United States. And we were giving a corporate business review. So annually, we would come together, their CEO, their CFO, their president would all come together and we would talk about the status of the business with them. And I went up and I gave my part of the presentation, which went quite well. And then I sat down. And as I sat down, rather than paying attention to the rest of the meeting, I found myself daydreaming about coming back to Denver that evening to teach a martial art
yeah,
class that I taught. And I realized this can't last. I cannot stay in this environment because I don't want to be the person that
mm,
wakes up 10 years, 20, 30 years from now and not have gone for my dream and said, oh my gosh, what did I do with my life? So again, even though I had a really good experience in the corporate world and I'm incredibly grateful for those 10 years, I had to move on because it wasn't in my
yeah.
heart.
Amazing, amazing. So yeah, the moment of clarity, realizing that you were staying for the wrong reasons. What happened in that moment, and what was the first decision you made once you saw it clearly?
Right. Well, I had the opportunity I had so many things that were working in my favor to follow that dream. So, number one, I was able to start a martial art program at my son's school. And so I was already able to build students up while I was still working in the corporate world. I also, at the time, although we're no longer together, I had a spouse that was incredibly supportive, and all of my friends were incredibly supportive. My parents were incredibly supportive of me moving on and doing this. I think that sometimes when people are going to make a big leap and follow their heart, follow their dream, sometimes they may come upon some resistance, right? Having a great paycheck, a company car, insurance, all those things that can support us can also become, we call it here in the States, the golden handcuffs, right? You don't want to leave because of all the accoutrements that you have. But I had a tremendous support system. The biggest thing that was holding me back was me. I had a tremendous fear about making this move and making it what I thought of at the time the biggest mistake in my life. I had two small sons. I was married at the time. And I thought, oh my gosh, what if I do this and it fails? And interestingly enough, that was probably one of the biggest growth
Mm,
periods of my life because I had to move. I felt I needed to move forward, but I was also petrified to do it. When I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs in my speaking business, and I'll often quip that the two, moving on and that decision to move on as an entrepreneur is not only the most exciting time of your life, it's also the most terrifying time in your life, right? Because of the unknown. And so I went through some real difficulties with that. But what was interesting is that as soon as I made the move and I made the commitment and I rented the facility and I left the work, things just started to unfold beautifully. I brought 50 students over to my martial arts school, and within a year, I had
mm,
200 students at one location. And within 5 years, I had 500 students at one location. So for me, it was the one even though I'd had a very blessed life up until that time, it was the one time where I was like, man, I feel I'm absolutely on purpose here. I am on purpose because things were unfolding so beautiful. And I was able to make an impact along the way
Yeah,
as well.
amazing. Amazing. This is really lovely. Yeah. Yeah. And so walking away from security at Procter and Gamble, to pursue coaching and speaking is the kind of move most people talk about and never make. What gave you the conviction to actually do it?
As I said, it was tremendous support. And I almost felt like I think the thing, it's often said that we can be either encouraged by pleasure or motivated by pain, right? Those are the two things that motivate us. We go to things that make us feel good, or we move away from things that are very painful for us. And I think what really started coming present for me is that as painful and as scary as it was to make my move away from the corporate world, when I started to project into my future, it was too painful to see what my life would be like if I didn't make the move. Case in point, during that time, and this was in the mid 90s, the United States economy was going through a lot of changes, and many companies were downsizing their workforces. And as a result of that, many people that I worked with or worked for in the corporate world were taking early retirements. And I went in San Francisco, California. I'm in Denver, Colorado, but I was called to a meeting in San Francisco, and we were there. And then at that time, my boss's boss was retiring
Yeah.
because, again, he was taking an early retirement. And everyone was gathering. He was a very, very good man. His name was John. And John was there, and people were telling stories about him. But the stories they were saying were, oh my gosh, I can't believe that sale he made. And when he did this to make the retail shelves look better at Safeway Foods. And all they were talking about were his work accomplishments. And they weren't really talking about the impact he had made on their lives. And I outpictured my life thinking, okay, where am I going to be at 30 years? Am I going to be flying back on an airplane,
Yeah.
overweight, lonely, discouraged, and not doing what I was meant to do? And I thought to myself, I can't live that. So as scary as it was, as petrified as I was at times of making that move and leaving the security, there was also a great discomfort if I were to stay doing the same thing I was doing.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Just the realization from that particular scene made you to actually more like, see step ahead. What does people actually get to appreciate at the end of, not the impact, sometimes it's the achievement. Yeah. Amazing. So you have spent 5 decades of studying and living breakthrough. As an athlete, a corporate professional, a coach, and a speaker, what is the single most important thing you have learned about why high achiever hit ceilings and why talent alone never break them?
I think there's probably three things, and I speak about these a lot in my keynote speaking, is the first principle. I call these qualities of black belt leadership. And the first of them is to have a purposeful vision. Okay, so I personally believe that each and every one of us has gifts inside of us that we were given. It was bestowed upon us right when we were born. And these grow and they develop as we live our lives. And our goal, our mission is to be able to share those gifts in the world to the best of our ability. I mean, most people, this is very profound. When people are on their deathbed, this is a study that I've heard,
Yeah.
in hospice workers, right? So people are dying and the nurses there and they start talking about their lives. The majority of the people don't regret the things they did, the mistakes they made, the things they might have told people. What they regret, Benaiah, is the things
Yeah.
they didn't do, the conversations they didn't have, the risks they didn't take. And so for me, having an understanding of what those gifts are and then having a vision, what I call a purposeful vision for those to be expressed, is one of the most powerful things we can have. Because when we're backed by a vision, when we have a why for why we're doing something, that's when things begin to move open for us. And that's when we have the power to move forward. So the first of those is to have a vision. The second thing that I learned from that experience is to have a conscious persistence. And what do I mean by that is that, in teaching, I've probably tens of thousands of students in my 5-decade martial art career. I've noticed that the ones that are the most successful and the ones that get it to black belt, and by the way, I have over 2,000 students that I've promoted to black belt. And I've noticed that the ones that get there aren't necessarily the best athletes or have the best mental discipline or the best body strength at the
Yeah.
beginning of their training. They're the ones that just keep showing up. They're the ones that just keep coming to class and they keep training. And interestingly enough, the ones that have the most challenge, particularly at the beginning, and overcome those, end up becoming not only my best black belts, but the best martial art
Mm.
teachers I've developed because they've learned a principle, which is a black belt is a white belt that
Ooh.
never quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having that vision and then having the persistence to keep moving
Yeah.
forward. And then finally is to take what I call inspired action. Inspired action. So many people, particularly when challenges come up, they want to get through it fast and they want to have instant success. But what it usually requires is constant steps that we take consistently over time that then lead to your breakthrough results. So a black belt, someone doesn't get their black belt by training a couple of weeks. They train 3 to 4 years to get there consistently. But what happens is when we are consistent about our efforts, they don't add up, they compound. They grow exponentially, and pretty soon opportunities that we didn't even know existed, we show up for
Yeah.
because we've kept moving
Yeah.
forward.
Amazing. Yeah. A black belt is a white belt that never quits. That really got me and just speak volume. So yeah, commitment or consistency showing up, even when the results may seem not coming into being, but it's compounding at the background of it. And at the end of the day, yeah, they get to come into being. And this is really amazing. And thank you so much for sharing. So your signature framework is built around the champion mindset, but the champion mindset is not the same as the winner mindset. What is the difference? And why does that distinction matter so much?
Well, I understood the concept and I've developed the concept of the champion's mindset because, again, I've had the opportunity to not only practice martial arts myself over 5 decades, but I've got to observe people, students that I've trained, as well as mentors that I've had or fellow martial arts students and competitors that I've seen. And what I've realized is that the difference between those that achieve a moderate amount of success and those that achieve a high level of success from a physical standpoint is often very, very small. Like, for instance, if you watch the Olympics and you watch the 100-meter dash, the difference between the person that wins the gold medal and the person that comes in number 8 in the entire heat is sometimes hundredths of a second. So we're talking about a very, very small amount of time. But so physically, they're very, very similar. But what is it that takes them to the next level? What is it that allows them when adversity hits them to say, no, I'm committed to this. I'm staying the course. You see, many of us start out very, very fast when we want to embark on something. We're very excited at the beginning. The Japanese call it being a hero at the beginning. And what we do is we blast out and we are moving at 200 miles per hour trying to reach our goal. But what happens is it's so out of our comfort zone that we move into something I call
Mm.
the panic zone, where it's so uncomfortable we can't maintain that pace. And then we snap back to where we were before, sometimes even regressing from where we were at the beginning. So what I always advocate is being in what's called the stretch zone. So, which means going back to that inspired action is we just keep taking consistent action each and every day. Now, I'm going to share something with you that I share in one of my talks. And when I learned this, it totally blew my perspective on taking consistent action. So, if you chose something, Benaiah, in your life that you wanted to get better at, and you committed to yourself, you
Yeah.
took the champion's mindset, you said, I'm committed to be 1% each and every day over the course of a year. That's all you said yourself, 1% better each and every day over the course of the year. At the end of the year, you would be 37 times better than when you started.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive, right? Now, if you maintain that pace over 2 years, just 1% better each and every day over 2 years, most people would think that you'd be 74 times better at the end of,
Yeah.
of 2 years, right? But that's not what happens. You'd literally be
Ooh.
1,400 times better because your small actions, they don't add up, they compound exponentially. And if you did that over 5 years, you'd be 7.6 million times better.
Mm.
So the champion's mindset is being able to get focused on your goal and be committed to take that
Yeah.
action each and every day, knowing that it may not show up at the beginning, but at the end it will grow exponentially. I always tell people in martial arts, we don't teach discipline, we teach
Mm.
self-discipline, which is doing the right thing, whether anybody is watching or not, being committed to yourself to express the
Yeah,
champion's mindset.
amazing. The champion mindset. Yeah, it's focusing on your goals and yeah, doing everything that is needed. Yeah, this is really amazing. Don't just teach discipline, but self-discipline. Taking out, yeah, consistent actions even when no one is looking at you. Yeah, this is really amazing. Thank you so much. So you went from a boy out searching for confidence to a man who now help others find theirs. How much of that mission is personal? A direct line now back to the 10 years old who needed someone to show him what was possible.
If I may, I'm going to share a story of how very early in my martial art career, that was absolutely life changing for me. So, as I shared, I started when I was 10 years old. And about 3 years after I began, I met a man that would change
Mm.
my life forever. In fact, he's still my teacher to this day. His name is Grandmaster J.K. Lee. Now, Grandmaster Lee had recently moved to the United States from South Korea. He had very little money. He did not speak English well at all, but he had this burning desire to transform lives through martial arts. And one of the first times I was in his class, I was seated in the corner of the room. My legs were spread wide because I was stretching out, getting ready for the training that day. And that's when it happened. He walked onto the mat. He has this amazing power, this amazing presence, and he begins surveying all the students. And pretty soon, Benaiah, I realized he's staring directly at me. And before I could move a muscle, he came over and he sat down in front of me. And he put his right foot on the inside of one leg, his left foot on the inside of the other. He grabbed the ends of my belt and with one push-pull motion, split me out to 180 degrees. So I learned two amazing life lessons that day. Number one is anyone can do the splits one
Mm.
time. But the second thing I learned is when he looked me in the eyes and he said to me in his broken English, he said, I will make you a champion. I will make you a champion. Now, at 10 years old, all I could think about was medals and trophies in the Olympics. And I just glided home to tell my parents what he had said. But over the last 5 decades, what I've realized is this: he was teaching me to become a champion in life, how to have that purposeful vision, how to move through difficulties with perseverance, and how to take inspired action. And the other thing that made that such an incredible moment in my life is my head heard, I will make you a champion. But what my heart heard was, I believe
Mm.
in you.
Yeah.
I believe in you. And as a young man, I was growing up in a household where my father was addicted to alcohol. It was a difficult time, many, many times in my life. And I was searching for this male role model. And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
this man was right in front of me. So he was one of my angels. And it's my hope now in the work that I do that I'm able to pay that forward, either directly with my martial arts students or the instructors I train, or in the people that I speak to, or in the people that I
Yeah,
coach.
amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I'm gonna make you a champion. It's really lovely. I'm just imagining what the internal monologue would be. I'll being a 10 years old boy and hearing that from one, like for someone who is so advanced in it, I'm like, what? So that's really a boost of confidence and a reassurance that yeah, I believe in you. Like, it's really amazing. So for someone listening right now, who knows their heart is pointing in a different direction, but is paralyzed by the fear of disappointing others, what do you want them to hear?
I would say this is allow that vision to stay alive. Do your best not to suppress it. Many people will do that. Oh, it's just not the time, or I'm not set for this. Now, at the other side of the coin, I'm not an advocate of just taking the leap without doing any work, right? In my case, I built a small martial art community before I ever went and took action to leave my company. But what I would say is set small incremental goals for yourself and start taking those steps each and every day, each and every week, each and every month
Mm.
toward your goal, whatever that is. It may not be career, it may be something else. But you see, when we are moving forward in the direction of our dream, the universe will actually start to present opportunities for us to lean into. We may not know how to get from point A to point B, but what will happen is when we get moving, the universe opens up that opportunity to us. One of my teachers once told me, said God, Spirit, the universe meets us at the
Mhm.
point of action. Meets us at the point of action. So when we have that vision and then we start moving toward it, however small, it's okay. What I think you don't want to do is have the dream, have the vision, and then sit on it for years. And I've been there too. I did it myself. I mean, I had that inkling to open up my martial arts school since I was 10 or 11 years old, and I chose not to do it until then. And it was the perfect timing for me. But what I'm saying is find out what that is, and then ask yourself, what's the next right move? And after you take that, then just say, what's the next right move after that? And after that, what's the next right move? Many of us don't take any action because we don't have everything filled out in front of us. That's not how it works. Know where you want to go and then ask yourself, what's my next right move? And then take it. And then just continue to follow the signs along the way.
I think this is really lovely. They just remove a whole lot of, will I call it mental masturbation, being that sometimes owing to the big goals and big dreams, and sometimes people just get disappointed owing to how big that thing is, not knowing that a whole lot of persons who get to figure it out, they don't know the various steps they need to take. It's just only one as evidence, and having to take it to discover that,
well, and here's the thing about that, Benaiah, is that many people are uncomfortable where they're at, but the discomfort is familiar. And moving out of that discomfort is scary because it's unfamiliar. So they've learned how to deal with the discomfort, so they just continue to hold on to the discomfort because moving out of it, even though that's where they know they want to be, it's too scary. So what I would say is don't allow yourself to be comfortable. That's not where the growth is. Don't allow yourself to be comfortable.
Amazing. Don't allow yourself, to be comfortable. So lastly, for high achievers who suspect they are staying in something, a role, a relationship, a version of themselves to avoid upsetting someone else, what is the first question they need to sit with?
Yeah. You know, one of my favorite authors and speakers is Dr. Wayne Dyer. And I had the opportunity to hear him speak personally, I think on 3 different occasions. And I remember hearing him speak the very first time, and he came out and he spoke for like 2.5 hours with no notes at all. No notes. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat for 2.5 hours. And afterwards, he took questions. And someone said, well, how do you prepare when you come out? And he goes, well, you notice I came out here and I didn't have any notes at all. He said, but what you didn't see is for the last 30 minutes before I came on stage, I was back, I closed the door to a small room, and I went into a meditation, and my mantra was, how may I serve? How may I serve? How may I serve? So what I would say to your listeners, if they're contemplating that move or whatever, and they feel that they're being held back by the fear or the obligation or maybe hurting someone's feelings, is get quiet and ask yourself that simple question. How may I serve? And almost invariably, you're going to find that if you're able to follow your dream and take care of yourself in that way, that is where you're going to be the best able to take care and serve others as well.
Amazing, amazing. Take care of your dreams. And that is the best way you could actually being able to take care of all that. This has really been amazing. Thank you so much. So from all this, we would love to reach out and to follow you more like either for your service that you offer or to follow you on the various platforms. How can they reach out and where is the best platform?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Benaiah. The best thing for them to do is go to my website, which is www.chrisnatzke.com. It's my name, but one word, CHRIS, N is in Navy, A, T is in Tiger, Z is in Zebra, A is in Kangaroo, E is in Elmer.com. And you can see all of my programs there. There's also a free gift that they can download, which is my top 10 big ideas to create breakthroughs in their lives. And if they're interested in having a conversation with me or learning more about my programs, they can reach out to me that way as well.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for bringing this energy, this honesty, and this conviction to quit to win. You're a reminder that a breakthrough is not about knowing more than more, but becoming more. And that the ceiling most people are stuck under was built from someone else's expectation. Is one this audience we carried on after this particular episode. And if today sparks something in you, share this episode with the high achievers in your life who is performing at the high level but feels stuck somewhere that they cannot quit. Quite name it. This conversation is for them. Remember that the bet does not make the champion. The refusal to quit does. It's really a pleasure and honor. Have you, Chris.
Thank you, Benaiah. It's been my pleasure as well.